back. Now, in as far as the group of deaths, they're growing by the number. When we last spoke, and we had Chris here, Timothy, Group C was seen as a group of death. It was hard to tell which team would come out of that particular group. We've discussed the last group, which is Group E now, and again, another group of death. And moving forward, I suggest we may have one more. When you look at Group F, you got Morocco, you got DR Congo, you have Zambia, what a nation, what a footballing nation, and Tanzania. And we spoke about Tanzania, the East. Now the East is doing well. We know Zambia is another former champion. Look, the less I say about DR Congo and Morocco, the better.
Listen, I mean, this group for me is the real group of they always say you have pretenders to the crown.
Yeah.
And they always say that those that are probably getting closer to certain things. This group for me is the real group of death. Why I'm saying that? It is the only group that has 3 former champions in it.
Yep.
1. Number 2, it is the only group when you look at what we have in there. I think a group that where Morocco is sitting, you already know that everyone's going to start saying, that's a group to look at.
Yep.
What can Morocco do that is different from the Morocco that played at the FIFA World Cup? And the fact that Morocco is still trying to get back to that winning ways in this competition is a huge one. I mean, for Walid Regragui, he knows that everybody always talk about him, wow, well, he did it at the World Cup. But the fact that he's been unable to come and win this will be a big thing for him. That's number 1. Number 2, there are certain elements to this game. When you talk about DR Congo, the last time they won this competition, 1974, the man that scored the goal there, Pierre Mulamba, was a top scorer with 9 goals, breaking a record that was set by an Ivorian 4 years before that, Laurent Pokou. And guess where they're playing their matches? DR Congo. The opening game against Zambia. At a stadium named after Laurent Pokou.
There you go.
So that's already such a juicy story to talk about when you talk about stories. I mean, that's such a beautiful story to talk about. Laurent Pokou, the stories, his prowess. 6 goals in 1968, 8 goals in 1970 to set a record, most goals scored. And then 4 years later, here comes a Pierre Mulamba, Ndaye Mulamba, who comes in and scores 9 goals, breaking his record. So now, DR Congo are back in the thick of things. What is different about the DR Congo this time around is that TP Mazembe, we always talk about club football versus national team. DR Congo's TP Mazembe at some stage was dominated by non-DR Congo players.
True.
Hence, they look so good. They had majority of the players some stage after Zambia won the Afcon was from Zambia. They had a lot of those players. Olympians and Colors were there. Rainford Calabas were there. They looked very solid at that stage. They've gone back to the drawing board. They've now started saying, let's bring all those other players who maybe could be born in France, but do have some lineage somewhere in Morocco, in DR Congo. They brought those players in. They're looking more a solid team, the one that they have at the moment. Their qualifiers are not good when they started off. They look like, ouch, things might just not happen for them. First 2 losses, and then a new coach came and he changed things, 4 wins in a row. They qualify for the Afcon tournament as the winners of their group. Now they're sitting in the tournament proper. They've got a Zambian team. That at the moment is saying, you know what, you're not just here to make up numbers. The coaches that are sitting there, for me, is always an interest when you got Walid Regragui, who's sitting in the Moroccan team. You have Abdel. You remember he was Amrouche. He was the man who was part of the Botswana national team at some stage. He was touted to come to South Africa to coach Skata Cheetah at some stage, by the way. And then that never happened. And then you also have another coach who's done well, Avram Grant, who's amongst the coaches in a group, as well as Sebastian. So you have 3 very popular figures in African football. 2 of those are legend. Avram Grant as well as Amrouche is now becoming a legend by virtue of him becoming a serial person that gets teams to tournaments. So that becomes a nice thing. But I believe in this group here, you're going to see some upsets. There's going to be some stories they're going to think and say, there was a team that arrived and did so well and then boom, 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 they were knocked out.
Zambia structures, which you've seen. I've been lucky to follow them in the 15s, 17s in the Kosafa region. Not only the boys, but the ladies. And the men's team as well. The Kosafa team, they brought through their B team. And my goodness. But when you see the under 15s, they're the same team has moved through with the same coaching team. To the under 17s, to the under 18s, and so on. You see that they are very serious about the development in Zambia. you can't take them lightly.
Look, it looks like Zambia is on a revival.
Yeah.
Getting back on the Afcon.
It's all about structures.
And then they have brought back Sunzu and Kabwe. Sunzu, you remember, is the one who took the last penalty to defeat Ivory Coast for the 2012 Afcon. So I'm looking at DRC, Zambia, Tanzania, and Morocco. DRC, if they can choose not to be entertainers and go and compete, they have got the talent.
I know he's
and they can cause an upset. But also, African football is not a respect of history.
Yeah.
Any team on the African continent always comes to play and perform very well. So the likes of Morocco being in the World Cup, I can tell you, African teams have no respect for that. So they have to come with their A game to even come out of this group. Zambia, when they took the title in 2012, no one gave them a chance.
Sure.
They took hard work as opposed to talent and skill in that tournament, and they were able to go all the way to win the championship.
Yeah.
And they have always grafted into that. They have got the likes of, Patson Daka, Kabwe, Sunzi just to man the back line. If they are able to get their first game of the tournament to 3 points, I can guarantee you Zambia will go through.
I have to ask you guys quickly.
Yeah.
Is it easy? The easiest thing to do here would it be to look at this group and say Tanzania could be the whipping boys? Would that be the easiest and possibly most foolish thing to do?
On paper, that's the easiest thing to say. Or even to say that's the team that's going to get serious
whipping boys,
in this group. But also, what it does is the same thing with Namibia. No pressure. We are returning to the tournament. We were there last in 2019, missed the last one. We are coming back this year. We have a lot of players that are coming in, and you look at how many players Simba is be able to contribute to this team. Well. Yanga is also coming in. A player that I wanted to talk about when you talk about this team of Tanzania, the Taifa Stars of Tanzania. There's a player called Mbwana Samata. And I remember way back when he was still playing in Africa, we were thinking, he's a very good player.
Yeah.
Now he's now playing his football in Greece. He comes back as more experience coming into the team. You also have a Simon Nsuva. Nsuva, for me, I've seen him play. Yeah. He's now playing in Algeria. Those are some of the players that are going to come in here. You also have another player that plays in Egypt, in Kani, who plays for, there is Ghazi Al Mahala, plays the football there. But the story of that, if you on paper, you sit down and say, let's look at the squads, you'll see Morocco, you're going to think, what? When you look at Morocco, that's the sort of talent they have in the squad. From Buno all the way to El Nasri, you talk about Amrabat among the squad, and Nasri in the squad. And everybody will tell you that how he never won the tournament, how he never won the best player. Ashraf Hakimi amongst those squad they have in this team. And you talk about some talent they're getting from their own backyard in Wydad, they're bringing to the squad. This team is something else. But football is played on the ground.
Well, that sounds like he's leaning towards Morocco.
No. All I'm just saying that on paper, these are some of the stuff we're going to talk about.
Yeah, you have to.
But the reality is, football is proven. Football will humble you. The late guy we used to sign out there for.
Yeah.
It will humble you, my guy. It will leave you thinking, but what happened here?
So, for me, what will be interesting is seeing for sides like Tanzania, how well their sides have done in the Champions League and how many of those players are contributing now to the national team. I never leave out the Champions League and competitions to their contributions to the national teams. For teams like South Africa, Tanzania as well, that have so many of their players that play locally before you look abroad. So it makes that a very interesting group for me, including the Zambians as well. You can't ignore any of the teams in that. But it makes it a very interesting team. Nations that play very good football. All of them football.
But also, a player like Klutas Chama, who plays for Simba, will know a lot about Tanzanian football because he's going to find some of the teammates that he does have in that squad there. You spoke about how Zambia are taking football seriously.
Oh, my man.
The first time I saw Petsim Daka, he was only a 13-year-old. The first time I saw him. Fashion Sakala, the first time I saw he was only 15 when he was playing in the under-20 tournament. You were there, team.
Exactly.
First time I saw Rainford Calaba, he was 15 playing under-23s against South Africa.
Lamek Banda, when I saw him, was a 15-year-old. These are some of the players that I'm talking about.
Now, this is the current squad. Yeah.
Kitwe, that was, this COSAFA tournament. That's how important these regional tournaments are. They are able to, like, the likes of, Dakar, Patson. You have got likes of Kabwe, coming through. But for
the Mwape brothers.
But for me, for me, what is important about this when we were playing, for example, Uganda Cranes playing the Super Eagles of Nigeria. You're looking at the likes of Kanu, Wutaka, Abofini Martins, and you're marking them, and you've been watching them on screen. That is a self-motivation for a player to come out, with his A game. So Tanzanian players, the likes of these Moroccan teams and what, they have an advantage for themselves. When I say that DRC, as long as they do not come to entertain, and they decide to go and compete and not show up, they are a very dangerous side. Once they decide to compete and go all out, it's very difficult to beat DRC. So it's in this group, it's going to be very different. The team that wants it more will qualify.
So there you have it. 3 group of deaths in this Afcon so far, according to me and my brothers. In just looking at this Afcon and what's to come, it makes for very interesting viewing. And if you're a true lover of the game, a true lover of the African game, I suggest you strap in and enjoy what should be a great battle to find out who will be kings of Africa.